Okay, here we go. We are in August, folks. The last time this team got together to have a conversation was January, and things have transitioned since then. Things have ebbed, things have flowed, and we have some new folks on the call. I'll start with the folks you know well. Micky, Sheryl, how you two doing today? Catch us up a little bit on life before we get to these very exciting new humans we're bringing to the conversation.
Well, life has been lifing.
Life has been lifing. Can
Life
we
has
give a
been
little
lifing.
behind the scenes on Sheryl's life? Actually, I think this is kind of the fun part of this this getting the team together thing. Sheryl, you have been living in Singapore for a very extended period of time. You are still
Yes.
technically living in Singapore, but where are you spending the next 6 weeks?
Actually, it's more than 6 weeks.
Where are you spending the next
Until
extended
after
period
this
of time?
I will be in the beautiful city of New York. Actually, I am currently filming this from New York. And that's because I am working on Money20 US.
Woo!
Fun times. Jazz hands.
Jazz hands. Yeah, I mean, at this point, Micky was working on the Europe show. I have a whole bunch of different things I do, and I'm focused on the US now. Sheryl, you were focused on the Asia show. I mean, we are just bringing the horsepower over here to really make this thing gallop. I really leaned into the horse
It's a
thing.
team effort.
It is. Micky, where are you? How you doing?
Good. I am currently not in the same situation as Sheryl, but I too am in North America. I'm actually in what I'm trying to dub as the Silicon Valley of the South, which is Nashville, Tennessee.
I've heard Theo
Uh,
Vaughn say that.
yes, yes. My good friend Theo, we're actually not friends, FYI. I know, but I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, enjoying the beautiful Southern hospitality and the heat, which is something that no one tells you about.
No, they tell you. You just chose to hear about the Nashville chicken sandwiches, and you just didn't really focus on the heat part. That's part of the conversation.
I
You
know.
just
When
ignored it.
people are talking about hot chicken, I didn't think that they meant the temperature also is part of it. But yeah, I've been in Nashville for the last couple of weeks. I was in New York with the team recently. I'm heading back to London to kickstart things off for our 26th cycle for Europe, but at the same time working on the US show, which to your point, Zach, it feels pretty awesome. It feels like we don't often do this where we bring the entire team to focus on this huge agenda, but it just shows you just how big of a moment it is in fintech right now, and just how global that US show is really, where we've got Sheryl, head of content for the Asia show, working on the US agenda right now. I'm involved in that, of course. You are. So yeah, it's an awesome moment right now.
Yeah, and we continue our episode of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego with Virginia Alvarez, the one, the only, the newest member of the team here. Virginia, give us a little bit of kind of where you came from, how you got here, and what you're doing now, and of course, where you're calling from.
Absolutely. Well, very happy to be here. As you know, Zach and everybody else, this is the most important event for payments, and I love it. I mean, in my past life, I have the opportunity to come to the show as a client, and I enjoy it so much fun, and also important information that you get from the show, and then you start implementing and doing and working on. So my previous life was at Swift. This is the first time actually I'm saying this in public. I haven't even had the chance to change my LinkedIn, because I have been like working and working and working. So yeah, I mean, that's my past life. Amazing, love that company, but this is a new beginning with Money20, and I'm fascinating of everything that I have been exposed so far. It's only 50 days in the company, but I feel already that I've been here for 3 years. So yes.
And you're in New York.
I'm in New York. I'm in New York
Yeah.
City as well with Sheryl. Like, very grateful for having Sheryl here, helping me and supporting me and teaching me actually about everything that I don't know, because I'm very new. But yeah,
I love it. It's a non-denominational baptism by fire. That's what we got going on here, folks. I love that. Specifically non-denominational, though. All right. And to our fellow Donna. I don't know why I said fellow before that, but it's been a morning and I need a little bit more coffee. But Donna, where are you? Who are you? How'd you get here? catch us up a little bit.
Sure. Well, unlike you guys, I work really hard, and it's 7 o'clock at night in London, where I am. I work late hours, work hard, don't play at all, just working nonstop. That's how it is at Money20. My background's from fin crime. I've spent like past nearly a decade in financial crime, working client side,
Solving it, just to be clear.
solving
Yeah. Not committing it.
I mean-
Very important distinction.
People do ask me all the time, and I do tell them exactly how to do it. I just say, go watch Ozarks.
I was gonna say, like, that YouTube video exists.
I mean, there are loads of YouTube videos on how to commit money laundering. It's very simple at its core. I mean, it gets very, very complicated, and it's a very tough job, and no one's fully solved it, and it's very, very difficult. But yeah, so I've spent a long time in the space. I've been to Money20 a couple times, not this year, but I went to 2024 and 2023 in the EU shows. So I'm pretty familiar. But yeah, I guess, how did I get here? I guess literally a month ago is the answer. Like a month and a week ago, I had, I think I finished out my interviews, and I was like, yeah, right, let's get started.
Well, I can say, having been involved in both of these interviews with Donham and Virginia, these were very easy decisions to make as soon as we met. Well, actually, the inside baseball is Virginia. We had worked together previously when you were at Swift, building stuff together, thinking about the man, the legend, David, having your CEO on stage, all kinds of good stuff. So it's very full circle. Welcome both to the team. Welcome to your first public-facing podcast. No pressure at all, because we're about to turn it around to you and talk about predictions, as we did in our last show in January. So we have some catching up to do. Sheryl and Micky have some...
Wait, before we even get that far ahead, I think it would be remiss for us to not get an intro from the man who hates sciences, who seems to be keen to highlight the math issue in our world. Please tell us where you, dear sir, are calling from.
Indeed. I'm happy to do so. Thank you, Micky. Hi, everybody. I'm Zach. I kind of forgot to say that at the beginning. I am calling from the one, the only, the beautiful Kansas City, specifically from our Stockyard district that was the center of economic activity when it comes to everything from manufacturing to cow slaughtering and purveying of foods across the entire United States. So we're right in the center of what was the economy in like the 1950s, 60s. And we're going to bring that forward with groundbreaking technological discussions that we're about to get into here. So thank you for asking, Micky. I'm calling from somewhere with lots of ghosts of cows past.
Wow. Powerful stuff right there.
Powerful, incredibly powerful. Speaking of powerful, I'm going to take that transition and go into predictions. So predictions. Micky, Sheryl, you two put in predictions early in December, actually. I did the same. Mine was a complete cop-out that we'll circle back to, because mine was who the F knows, which I will say I nailed. But we have to get new predictions on the books here as we have new joiners joining. So, Virginia, Donham, it's coming over to you. Virginia, we'll start with you. What's your prediction for the rest, I guess, of 2025, with the benefit of having 8 months almost under your belt with that? What are you thinking is going to unfold in the rest of this year?
Wow. It's hard just to focus the attention on only one thing, right? I would say that fintech, the spring, although we are in summer, but I think fintechs are growing and booming like everywhere. I think they are getting more importance in the picture of like the money movement, cross-border transactions. So I believe not only the next 8 months, but next year is going to be huge in terms of like how many new fintechs are coming into the equation of payments or the entire field. And I love that. It's a way of how we continue working and migrating traditional finance to decentralized finance and making this new structure modern, agile, protected in terms of fraud, and also transparent, less lower cost. So I think that's one of my biggest predictions for the rest of the year and also for 2026.
I love it. If you had to boil that down to one pithy sentence that we could hold you accountable for, hypothetically, if we were to do this again, like December 20th or something like that, how would you like turn that into one specific thing we can argue with you about?
A new breed of fintech innovation and consolidation. It's not going to be only coming up or booming or new fintechs, but also the consolidation of many of them working together. My kind of embedded finance. Yeah, hold me on that.
I like that.
Yeah. Okay.
It feels very possible that we are on the verge of an acquisitions boom. I mean, we've already seen Stripe and Bridge. We've already seen, a number of sizable acquisitions this year. And it's going to be interesting as like the public markets either open up or don't, which they kind of have. And the private markets seem to be opening up again in a very unique way. Like I feel like we've seen more fundraising announcements in the last week than we've seen, or maybe that's just, I think that's has a lot to do with what you're reading and how much you're paying attention. But I would say I paid attention a lot last week, and I was stunned by how much fundraising was happening from companies that even had just raised days ago. It seemed like between, what was it we were looking at, Sheryl? Virginia, you were in the room too. I think we found Rillet that had just raised like 3 months before, and then Ramp had just raised 150 million like a few months before they raised 500 million. And it seems, they had doubled revenue in that time. So to your point, Virginia, I feels like we're living in a very unique time of growth. And it does feel like the potential for some bank fintech acquisitions, some fintech acquisitions could be interesting. What do y'all think outside of my ramblings? Rest of the squad, what's our opinion here?
With the acquisitions, I always wonder what people are actually acquiring. Like when you acquire
your first principles.
When you acquire a business, you acquire two things, right? You acquire people, like the staff who build the thing, very important for like say Instagram or any like other small AI companies. You also acquire proprietary data and software builds, right? The average fintech, the average small scale company that gets bought up, are they going to have the infrastructure to be able to be plugged into a major bank that's operating in 50 different markets, which is kind of how I see the US really, as just 50 discrete markets. But is that possible, right? Are they going to be able to roll them out very quickly, or are they just going to buy some underlying principles, turf out the staff for the most part, like move people in under and take those ideas from the staff that are core behind the idea and get them to build it into their existing tech stack? I think that's one of the things I always wonder whenever we talk about acquisitions. What is it that you're actually seeing being acquired?
Yeah, I think that's a great point, actually. And I think one thing outside of the fintech space on the point of the acquisitions piece is what's going on in AI is kind of super instructive, right? Like, I know the Scale AI story was probably like the kind of apex of this acqui-hire situation, but it's been happening for a couple of years now. But that's a super interesting point you made, Dunham, in terms of, and I don't know how it tracks for financial services, right? But increasingly, as technology becomes, way more specialized, right? Like all of these big technologies, if you kind of go from, whether it's blockchain or even like parts of the financial services, and like I think AI is the best example of it, right? AI is super interesting because it's super scalable once you've kind of reach a certain level of like network effect, right? So like what OpenAI can do has never been done in history before, right? Like in terms of the number of users it has, like it's like 1 billion active users at the moment or something around that number, right? But the number of employees it has to get to that number of users served is a fraction of the size it would have taken 5 years ago, 10 years ago, right? But the flip side of it is that these technologies become even more specialized, right? So now you have what we're seeing in the AI spaces. Really, it's much more a fight for the talent, right, than the product. So if you look at, the likes of Ilya, who was the one of the main guys in this AI space, he's raised a couple of billion for a startup that has no product. We have no idea what that product is. Same with Mira Marathi, who was also I think she was the CTO at OpenAI, if I remember. She's raised, something astronomical like that. And all of these things, I think, right, like if you kind of use the old traditional metric for assessing things, they don't really make sense, right? Like, but if you kind of start having a different metric for assessing it, which is really a war for talent, that starts to make a lot of sense. I think so. That piece you mentioned, Dan, is super interesting. And then more specifically on the fintech side, I think that what's been really interesting over the past few months, and Zach, the point you raised around some of the funding pieces, right? Really, but also like I think the biggest one we saw over the past few weeks was Ramp raised, astronomical sums of money. Is that a couple of years ago we were talking a lot about the fact that like there's going to be an increased focus on the B2B side of financial services and fintech, and that's really what you're seeing right now. Is there's a lot of fintechs that are even early stage fintechs are securing, at Series A, Series B, significant sums of money, 20, 30, 50 million. And I think a big part of that is because they're focused on that enterprise side, that B2B side. And I think that tells us a little bit about where the next area of value investors see.
And they're AI first, right? Like we're talking enterprise grade, selling to the enterprise, and most of what we're talking about is AI first. So it kind of has that whole flywheel of, the battle for talent, which I think I saw something a few days ago, which like OpenAI is going to give a $1.5 million bonus to literally just the entire company, right? Which is bonkers. And I mean, Meta's still putting out these, billion-dollar offers, which I still don't really understand. Like how that's even possible, but it seems like the actual dollar amounts that are flowing in, I mean, the amount of competition for these companies is like, I mean, because you're competing against, like, you have an idea, you say AI, you say enterprise, and you can raise $50 million right now, right? Like it's shifted in a really unique way if you have the right people.
If you kind of think back 10 years ago, right, like there was, an interesting narrative at that time, right, which was big established financial institutions had they were facing a tough time because increasingly as they became more digitized, they weren't competing amongst each other for the latest raft of talent. They now were competing with the Googles, the Apples, the Microsoft of this world, right? Ultimately, you might be a financial services company, but you're really like that tech stack is the key piece of it. Now, I think we're really moving into an age, and AI, I think, is a real kind of like canary in the coal mine type thing where what is your moat, right? Like, if you think about it, where financial products are so easy, relatively speaking, to spin up, right? Like companies can build products overnight. What's your moat? Like, think about OpenAI and Anthropic, right? Like, what's their moat? Anthropic was born out of OpenAI. It's making, its revenues are in the billions already. And I think that's where the talent piece becomes more interesting because talent now becomes your moat, right? You're not necessarily hiring for now, but you're hiring because there is such a finite amount of these people who have the technical skills to build this next layer of innovation. You're trying to secure them so that your competitors can't. And I think that's the model, whether it works or not, time will tell.
Yeah. Have you all heard of Aaron Levy, the CEO of a company called Box?
Yes.
Yeah, enterprise grade kind of a, CRM oriented company. He put something on Twitter the other day that was about core versus context. So context being kind of everything. I don't love the word context and the way that he framed it, but it made a lot of sense. Context being basically everything that you have to do business, and core being the most important thing that like only you do, right? So core ends up getting mostly built internally by your engineers, taking whatever off the shelf and actually customizing it, but it's your real IP. And context is, everything you can buy off the shelf that's gonna just kind of allow you to do the basics, right? It seems like that framework is getting more and more important right now because the ability to like spin up a checking account, like now that we have regulatory clarity on a lot of these things in terms of embedded finance and everything else, like the context is getting easier and easier and easier. And it seems like with AI and crypto, core is getting maybe more difficult or more important in a way that like everybody just kind of looked and sounded the same for a period of time. So I think there's an interesting, I don't know the answer, Micky, but I think it's a really interesting way of thinking about a lot of this. And I mean, we've talked about moats forever, but it's a different kind of deep dive on it. Sheryl, you came off mute. You got thoughts, I can tell. Let's hear
No,
them.
I do. You can see from my intense gaze. But no, like a trend that we started seeing quite a fair bit in Asia was banking as a service solutions, and specifically also AI related tools that banks can just plug and play. And the word here is plug and play. These and basically immediately after the Asia show, what the content team did was we started having one-on-one interviews with relevant fintech stakeholders. Some of it were banks, some of them were fintech providers. When we spoke to banks, I would say like 60-70% of them were saying that they wanted like plug and play solutions, especially within the remit of AI. So Zach, to your point, the moat, right, the core, and basically what you can customize. I think right now, especially because there are so many regulations, so many like guidelines and things, and when a fintech comes up with something that banks can just easily plug and play, that is extremely valuable.
100%. And speaking of plug and play and transitioning into financial crime and all the wonderful financial crime solutions that exist that are plug and play, I actually don't have any idea what Donham's prediction is going to be, but I'm just using his background as a transition. Donham, what is your prediction for the next few months?
First off, I would say that most decent financial crime solutions are not plug and play. Like they require a lot
True.
So I've got three like major predictions. One we can kind of dismiss because it's for the next 3 to 5 years. I reckon in 5 years' time the metaverses are going to come back in a big way.
God, I hope you're wrong, but I bet you're right.
I put that down entirely to Google's new Genie 3 AI model. It is one of the most insane things I've ever seen. Like it's incredible. You can just create a world and it'll procedurally generate it, I guess, as you move through it. There's a video of a guy who made the Nighthawk, the famous Nighthawks painting of the guys having like a steak at whatever, like a cafe late at night. No one's been to a museum here. Okay, fine. So you basically moving around inside that painting. Anyway, so yeah, I do think that's going to come back in a big way in the next 3 to 5 years. I think AI is just going to make it possible. Secondly, I would say open banking, as far as the US is concerned, is gone. I think.
What do you mean? How could that be possible based on the CFPB, our new administration, and the lawsuits that are flying all over the place? Yeah. How could open banking be gone, Donham?
I mean, it's pretty much that. I mean, unfortunately, so I think the CFPB, I don't know what they're going to actually do. Everything I've read about the 1033 rule is very like, they keep flip-flopping and changing their minds as to whether or not they agree with it or not. I think they did ask for a stay from their current case with one bank from the courts because they were like, we're going to write a new rule and it's unclear what's going to happen. And then obviously JP Morgan jumped on that and decided to charge everyone billions of dollars. And fine, why not? They're the ones who own the data, and at the moment there's no reason for them to let it be free for people to access. Third thing is, actually I do have a fourth, sorry, which is very small, very quick one. The real competition for fintechs and finance is not going to be other people in the space. It's going to be health techs and pharma techs. That's where loads of VC money is turning to. Loads of funding is happening in that space. And like just from a hiring perspective, talking to your point, Micky, about talent, they are poaching people from the fintech and finance spaces at a very accelerated rate across health techs and pharma techs at the moment. Just something to be aware of, I think. But no, the final thing is, has anyone seen The Incredibles? I feel like this is a bit more less like highbrow art. Yeah, we've all seen The Incredibles.
Yeah. So as soon as you talk Pixar instead of art galleries, like come on, like.
So when everything is AI, nothing is, right? And I mean, you can apply that to the same thing with fintech, right? And I think essentially by that I mean AI is becoming table stakes. I know startups and scale-ups that had AI in their titles, AI in their domain names, that have removed it because they don't want to be seen as someone who's positioning themselves as an AI company. They want to be seen as a company solving real-world problems that uses AI, because obviously they use AI because everyone uses AI. And so I think the moat shrinks massively. I don't think it is necessarily going to be a talent moat, because you have that one guy, Dietzke, I think his name. I'm surely butchering his name. This guy is 24, 26 years old, and he's getting paid 240 million or something ridiculous by Meta. He's an AI whiz kid. He knows everything about AI.
Alex, wrong. Is this the scale AI guy you're talking about, or someone else?
His name's Matt Dietzke. He was offered a $250 million deal from Meta after he refused after he refused a $125 million deal from Meta. And then the reason why I don't think talent's going to be necessarily going to be the moat anymore, I think it's going to be culture, because OpenAI. So Sam Altman and Mira from, I can't remember what their new company is called, but they've both said that their AI companies have had all their staff have had similar pitches from Zuckerberg, from Meta, like these crazy packages, and they're not moving. So money isn't going to be the motivating factor anymore. It's going to be culture. Your culture and what you create for the problems that you promise to your AI developers that you're going to be able to solve, that they're going to be able to solve, the challenges, the story behind it is going to be bigger than anything. I can't remember exactly what Sam Altman said years ago when OpenAI was starting. He didn't say, I'm going to build a chat bot that talks to you and too many people are going to use instead of going to a therapist. He said, we're going to create something that's going to solve the world's problems, right? And I think that's something that America, I mean, this is me getting to a bit of rant of America versus Europe, but I think one of the great things that Americans do is have a big picture story. They tell a phenomenal story, not just to the market, but to themselves and to their people, and they really believe it. And that's always been Silicon Valley's winning formula, and I think it's going to become more and more important.
I agree. I also wonder if there's a cycle or a circle to it, because if you think back on like the beginning of Meta, if you think back in the beginning of a lot of these companies, like they were saying similar things, right? Like a lot of what you just said that Sam Altman was saying are things that Zuck was saying really early on, right? Like we're going to create this new world, like yada, 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 right? And then you end up with Cambridge Analytica, you end up with, maybe not everything being awesome on Facebook. I don't know, just throw it out there. And I do kind of wonder if that is a cycle of like positive hype associated with goodness being engendered into the world that then makes contact with capitalism over an amount of time and then kind of disappears. Like, I mean, at this point, Google doesn't have "Don't Be Evil" anymore. So I agree with what you're saying in like a 3-year, 5-year span. I really wonder what it's going to be like. And I'm not disagreeing, but I just wonder what it's going to be like in a decade.
Well, I mean, I think Sam Altman again, not that he is the godfather of AI, but I mean,
kind of. He's the godson.
I mean, one of the big things that is interesting that's happening, just I think especially in America right now, but it's happening kind of globally, is the great flattening, right? And fine, sure, middle management are being booted out of their positions, and that's all it is in itself. Lots happening there. But what happens when you get one guy with a great idea who goes onto their AI platform and says, spin this up? And they don't need any marketing, they don't need any dev, they don't need any sales, they don't need any UX design, because it's all just there packaged up from their vision, from their single prompt. Maybe we'll be looking at a world where you don't need a C-suite anymore.
I mean, I think it was last week. A lot happened last week. A lot happens in AI in a week in general, I guess. Vinod Khosla tweeted something about how I think he said like by 2050 the Fortune 500 is going to be falling apart, that our like version of the economy today is going to look nothing like it does now. We're going to have universal basic income, and people are going to be working on basically what you just described. Like if you're not starting an entire thing with a prompt, then you're probably doing some art, or I don't know. It seemed very dystopian and utopian at the same time. So it's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds.
It is going to be. I think on your point around the C-suite thing, Daniel, I think that is the piece around the AI talent piece, right? I think that Wix acquired that company, Base 44, which was a 6-month solo entrepreneur built company for $80 million. We're going into that phase, and that's the thing that's super interesting about something like AI. AI creates this like leverage effect, where every technology creates this leverage effect where basically less and less people can do more and more than before. I told you that there was a few things that you said that were very interesting. I think the piece around the chatbot piece with OpenAI, why I think that's really interesting is I think it kind of tells the story of how technology develops, though, right? Like there's technology develops, but usually the market dictates product market fit better than even an entrepreneur does, right? Like so with OpenAI, like I think it is completely makes a lot of sense to me that chat OpenAI did not think ChatGPT would be a thing, right? Like, it's a chatbot. They didn't think that would have that fundamental impact on the world, really. It's like, chat I don't think there's been anything like ChatGPT before, right? Like, it just out of nowhere, it's literally changed the way we think about everything. I think probably that tells you a few things about, what the like innovation wave might look like. But I think the thing about that is every great technological innovation has some type of hook that brings together like large scale use cases that then creates the kind of opportunity for like long term innovation to happen, right? My theory, honestly, like my like conspiracy theory, if you want to call it, is that I think probably OpenAI were probably struggling financially because it takes so much money to build what they're building that they had to release something. And that's why they released ChatGPT when they did. And I think that just changed their own trajectory because it's like they put this thing out there and overnight, hundreds of millions of people started using it because it found a perfect product market fit. And that's to the point we made previously about open finance and open banking, right? Those two are very interesting if you think about how for a really long time in fintech, we've been talking about the advent of open banking and open finance and how it would transform financial services and how it would transform consumers' experience with money and the products and competition, etc. Really, most of that has not materialized. And part of that is probably because it feels like that was an industry-driven innovation, right? That never had a product that people could actually test and iterate and have like that kind of widespread appeal or use to it. Whereas if you look at like something like OpenAI, ChatGPT, right? Like that's just one part of what OpenAI do, right? Like they've got a bunch of other things, and yet that has created this kind of hook effect that has allowed OpenAI to be transformative as a company. And I think you could probably make that same case for when you look at something like crypto and stable coins, right? Think about stable coins, right? Like, stable coins. I remember at the Europe show, Goldie from Fireblocks made this fantastic point, which was that, stable coins emerged as a kind of off ramp, on ramp for these exotic trading practices, right? The meme coins, you needed to get out of those meme coins kind of quickly, right? So stable coins. But now all of a sudden, this product that was created by this crypto frenzy of trading has now become actually like the perfect institutional grade product for DeFi to have like mass appeal in financial services. So I think there is something really interesting about that evolution with OpenAI and ChatGPT that is instructive for maybe how innovation might develop going forward in financial services and fintech too.
I think to Donham's point too, though, that's highly cultural in terms of just like the speed. Like the reason you're going to work at OpenAI, I have a friend that actually just got a job there after. Well, no, he actually signed the deal before the $1.5 million bonus was brought up. But the speed of shipment, right? Like engineers are going over there just because they're getting to iterate, work on fascinating stuff, and move super quickly. So I think those two things play together. Let's jump into a quick check-in on the existing predictions that we have from Micky and Sheryl here. And Sheryl, I'll read yours for you. Let's go to you first. The funding winter is ending. Strong startups will usher in a new spring. Is that true? Are we seeing that happen? Talk to me.
So I've heard things and I've seen things from both camps. And all I can say is global warming. That's all I can say. Like, is it winter? Is it spring? Is it summer? Because it's very, very obviously like spring/summer for a couple of verticals. But yeah, it's still winter to a lot of accelerators, startups that I've spoken to. And I think it's also very much like here, and therein lies the issue, right? It's very much cyclical. It's like I think this is a very perfect way for us to basically wrap everything together. We were talking about AI and how that has catalyzed many things, change from many things. We're seeing a lot of funding go there. To Virginia's point, also, we're starting to see a lot of consolidation as well. But I mean, so definitely one, global warming, man. Like, in some verticals that's heating up, in some verticals that's cold as hell. It's so cold, it's freezing. I was speaking to someone else from the land down under, telling him about my fintech prediction and how I predicted that everything like funding winter will end, and he said it's brutal.
Is it though? Is
No.
it, or is it finally becoming a meritocracy? That's kind of what I wonder. Like, is the hype, have we kind of like shaken the hype trees a little bit and like all the hype fruit has
No.
fallen out?
Meritocracy is a myth, but that is something else that we can talk about. But no, but I still see that. No, and this is something that we've consistently seen, right? Back in, I don't know, when 2016, 2017, 2018, there was a Series B gap. And then the startups that were getting funded were the same few startups. And now, I mean, the startups, the companies that are getting funded, they're within the same few verticals. And when I've spoken to, well, this was for my interview back for the Asia show, which was just conducted very recently. Accelerators, VCs, and startups, they all sing the same song. That if you are, I guess, not in AI, it will be harder to get the attention of the people who moves the checks. So, like global warming. And I think if you look at it from a bell curve perspective, right, the disparity and the gap between the bell curve, basically, that will continue to get larger. Math.
That the math does math there. I guess, I don't know. I think what I'm responding to is, or not responding to, what I'm responding with is a recency bias, just based on some of the news that's come out over the past couple weeks. And I think it's really easy in these conversations to have a really strong recency bias associated with this. Like, you see a few pieces of news and you're like, funding winter's over, summer, we're so back, you know, and then you go the following week and you're like, oh, I didn't realize that no consumer companies had been funded in like 3 months, you know, whatever it might be. But it actually, that I was joking or using that as an example. Not a very good joke if it was one. But the enterprise side of it does seem like where a lot of that funding is going, right? And to Donham's earlier point, like the ability to tell the right story about that next fundraise to the investors and position yourself correctly with that, like it seems like that's the direction. You got to be able to still tell that right story about what AI is doing for your future.
Yeah, I think it doesn't just have to be AI though, right? I think we'll make an interesting point. If you kind of, I think you're right on the recency bias. I think there's a few things probably in my mind going on. One is, I think probably we're getting to that point where fintech as a standalone label doesn't necessarily always make sense if you're trying to understand what's going on broadly across the industry. I think probably everyone thinks that AI is this horizontal layer, right? We don't talk about, there is AI for AI's sake, right? AI is integrated into every industry, and that's why it's, you know, doing what it's doing. I think there is that sense with financial services too, right? Financial services is going to touch every industry. I mean, Dan, to your point on healthcare, right? You need, you know, if you're in the US or in lots of markets around the world, the financial piece of healthcare is still a really big component of that industry. And I think, so because of that, I think it doesn't always make sense to talk about fintech as this one industry piece. To your point, it's like consumer fintechs probably struggle a lot more now, and that story has to be a lot tighter and the expectation has to be a lot higher. But inversely, right, like for some other types of fintechs, right, if you're enterprise or business focused fintech that has like a subscription model, right, if you've got some ARR, that's probably like really hot right now, and like you're gonna do really well. And I think the best example of that is if you look at, you know, a couple of months ago, we had two really interesting IPOs, right? On the one hand, we had Chime, went public at, I think it was like $33 a share. Right now, it's at $30 a share. So it's about 10% down. And then you got Circle. I don't even remember the price Circle went public at, but I think it was around the $30 mark it went public at. And it was at about like a 5 billion market cap. At $160, it's 420% up, right? Since IPO.
It was IPO price was $31 a share. It was above the expected range of 27 to 28. Shares debuted
And now it's on
the New York.
160.
Yeah, and they debuted on the New York Stock Exchange at 69 per share and surged to $83 by the end of the first day of trading.
Yeah, and at some point it had been at like $240, something like that. Right now it's trading at $140, $160, about 400% higher than the IPO price a couple of months ago, right? So I think the story is really interesting, and the momentum and the timing. Stablecoins right now, incredibly hot legislation, lots of really big companies getting into that space. Circle is bang on that momentum wave right now. Whereas someone like Chen, for example, probably gets penalized, right? Like that story is harder to tell for a consumer business. And they had their financial results last week. And they have some really impressive numbers, actually. They're growing some of their businesses outside of their core interchange-based business. That's growing faster than everything else. They're doing pretty well, but yet they're not capturing that same momentum. So I think there's something interesting there too. And then generally, I think there's also just this interesting mismatch between public markets and private markets. Another company that went public a couple of weeks ago is Figma, a tech company that was priced at, again, something like $30 a share, again, on the higher bound. It went to over $100. It's trading at $80, over 100%, right? So there's another layer of this too, which is the private market versus public market dichotomy is interesting. And I wonder how fintechs would do as a result of that.
One quick data point on this that's kind of interesting. I'm looking at the stock chart of Circle, and I was trying to see when the Genius Act was officially signed into law. The Genius Act corresponds pretty directly with their highest day, which, to your point, Micky, was like 260-ish. And so that was on the 23rd was that 260 day, but you start to really see that upward movement on I guess that would be the 17th. And the Genius Act officially was passed on the 17th. So there is, what you're talking about, there's proof in the pudding, literally right there.
And Micky, if you allow me, I wanna add another prediction. And we're seeing that now, but it's gonna be even bigger. And it's a matter of how things are going to get organized, and it's about what you just said, right? Like the Genius Act. I would call this prediction the age of infrastructure, right? Because with that regulation being approved, and now everybody can have their own, tokenization or build their own tokens and come out to the market. And we have now countries or banks building their own CBDCs, right? And digital currencies are more available. Are going to be more available. When we talk about the infrastructure, what is important is not, first, we need to see how the private and public chains are going to work based on this regulation. The second thing is how easy will be for everybody to make the transactions easier, faster, transparent, and lower cost. But also, if it's really DeFi or is it the traditional finance, but more with a new extension, right? That's the most important thing that we need to see. But definitely we will see big changes in terms of the infrastructure, right? But the most important thing that nobody's talking about, well, no, I'm going to take that back. A lot of good companies are talking about that and are very focused on that, is the interoperability, how all of this is going to work together, how the currencies or the digital tokens and tokenization and all of that are going to, the blockchains and so on and so forth, are going to work together to make the money or the values in general move faster and in alignment. So I think companies that will survive or will be really at the top of the rank in terms of the new market infrastructure are the ones that are build that interoperability from the get-go, right? That think about how this can be massively extended, if you know what I'm talking about, and that will make them to be, more accessible for everybody, right? So that's one of another prediction I want to put at the table, because I think nobody is talking exactly about the importance of the Genius Act. You mentioned, Zach, thank you. I had it in my list. The Genius Act, how it's going to transform payments, we have been using the same type of system for the past 50 years. Now this is something new, but new things are fantastic, but are also bringing new challenges. And the challenges are the ones that I just described, right? How we're going to make all of this working together and operate seamless, for everyone massively have access to. And interoperability is the word that we all have to have in our mind. So I leave it there.
Excited about for Vegas is the intersection stage, right?
Yes.
Which is everything you're talking about, Virginia. I mean, it's not often that you see some of the names, and the agenda will be out soon, but it's not often that you see some of the names that we have on the intersection stage, which is technically not the main stage, right? I mean, the main stage is like this thing that we get in, a lot of serious conversations about, and like, I have to be there, not here. But actually, like, if you take a look at the agenda right now, I would just be camped at the intersection stage because of, I mean, just the amount of conversations about the shift of infrastructure. I mean, when was the last time that we had a legitimate infrastructure revolution that most people are not going to see, right? Like, if you're not playing with stablecoins in your wallet, if you're not like paying attention to the ins and outs of Circle, like the average American, on this one we'll speak specifically to Americans, their lives are going to shift in terms of the speed of money movement, in terms of the speed of all these different things, in terms of risk going down, all this just because of an underlying, potential like rip and replace of a lot of this infrastructure. So it is a very exciting time. And let's not act like the main stage doesn't also have some hitters. I mean, the likes of Bret Taylor from Sierra, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be a big time.
You say that, people, we will have to camp in front of the intersection stage. I think there's so many good sessions across the entire 3 days of the show, or 4 days actually, because starting Sunday, that, it will be very hard. And all of them in some ways are talking about the age of infrastructure, and somehow, by the incorporation of AI, by changing, the Genius Act, the usage of stable coins or blockchain. So like, there's so many angles that you can cover across the 3 days on the agenda that you really need to be prepared with your sneakers to run and go to the different sessions across the floor. It is amazing. The companies, people, the topics is really, really, really exciting what we're gonna see in October.
Let's transition to that. Let's do a really fast round robin. So, Micky, is embedded finance dead? Yes or no? And we just need a yes or no, and then we'll keep moving.
Maybe.
Good answer. Keep it moving. Okay, so we're gonna do a lightning round of one session or speaker that folks are really excited to see live on site in Vegas. I alluded to mine before, so I'll start. Bret Taylor from Sierra, the man that invented the like button, has been co-CEO of Salesforce, was like one of the earliest and co-founders almost of Facebook. I mean, there's like the background, everything. He was on the board of Twitter. I mean, I don't think there's a significant FANG company that he didn't play a significant role in some way, shape, or form, other than like maybe NVIDIA.
Isn't he the president of OpenAI right now?
He is the chairman of the board of OpenAI.
Chairman of the board, that was it.
Yes. Yeah. He's, I think if one were to find hitter in the dictionary, one would see a picture of Bret Taylor. So I'm really excited to hear that story. Sheryl, who are you excited about? Or
Robin
what?
Vince, the CEO of BNY. So BNY is the world's largest. Well, the Singapore accent just came out, like, largest custodian bank. And I think what a lot of people don't know is that BNY is the first global bank to deploy an AI supercomputer. That's really, really exciting, especially like for a bank, right, to lean in and adopt these emerging technologies. They've also done a multi-year partnership with OpenAI for deep research capabilities. And I think Zach and I were just talking about how this is a perfect example of symbiosis, because you have banking, well, you have fin and you have tech. And then this sort of partnerships, it's like win-win for both sides, because, and I think that is, at the end of the day, that is what we're trying to capture a lot at Money 2020, because we are the heart of fintech. So capturing these partnerships, these movers and shakers, these conversations, these groundbreaking moments within fintech history, which is what makes this entire thing very magical.
Yeah, that conversation is going to meet right in the middle of the Venn diagram of like everything we were talking about. And I didn't realize before last week when we were talking about it, Sheryl, that BNY actually is a $55 trillion in assets. Not like in terms of actually managing those assets, but just in terms of custodied assets. Like that's,
it's 46 trillion in assets under custody.
Well, I found 55. I'm going with my 55. We can ask Robin on site. That'll have to be one of the questions. All right, Virginia, what are you most excited about?
Everything, but because
that's someone that's been too close to the agenda.
We don't have 3 hours to talk about all the sessions that are fantastic, and is I will run to see them. I'm gonna focus on
one. You got to pick one.
Okay, yes. So I'm gonna pick the one that is on Sunday at the Fraud Summit. I know, Danon, that this is your baby, like you love fraud, but no, this is a very good one.
He's committing it all the time.
So yeah, there is one specifically about AI beat AI and how deepfake and everything that, AI is bringing as a new technology now as a horizontal crossing, across every single aspect of the industry, actually, or beyond the industry, is going to it also brings aspects that we need to be careful, right? So how AI is helping us in somehow, but it's also creating issues because the deep fakes and all the biometrics and things like that can be replicated without customers' authorization. So this is something that is a very good session to understand, not only from the payment side, or the industry side, but also from the consumer side, right? Like what are the things that we will be exposed that we all need to know about it? So that's one that I really want to see.
Love it. Donham, what's got you going?
Oh, I mean, I had 3, but I'll pick just one. It's on the emergent stage. It's who's in control, agentic AI and the future of financial power. I think we've got someone from Citibanks, someone from MasterCard. I think the last person is David Birch, who I'm very familiar with because he's all things identity and synthetic identity. I think it's gonna be really interesting because I love bleeding edge tech just generally. The emergent stage is the best place to see like the latest in tech anyway. And I think it's a real problem, right? Where is the future of financial power? Who's actually making the money? I mean, on the one hand, you've got people like this is a bit different in the sense that it's about people's dating lives, but I remember Whitney Wolf Herd saying that, in the future, it'll be your AI agent talking to someone else's AI agent to get you on a date, right? What do you do when that's your money, right? What do you do when it's your AI agent talking to, do you guys have Tesco's in America? Walmart? When you have your AI agent talking to Walmart's AI agent, talking to your fridge, I don't know, deciding what your shopping should be, right? And figuring out what the most nutritious, balanced meal that you can have based for your salary or your budget, right? That's a potential use case of how financials will be controlled. I don't think that's what I'm going to be talking about, to be honest, because I did pluck that out of thin air. But I think the future of money and how it's going to work, especially with AI, especially when decisioning might be common decisioning might be taken out of ordinary people's hands. It's interesting, right? Like, what's that going to look like? Are we going to like it? Are we going to love it in a way that, I don't really think about a lot of the maths that I do in my life. I let Excel do it for me, right?
Yeah.
Are we going to think about it in the same way? Maybe not. Maybe it's going to be a very long, difficult process.
It is. That's fascinating to think about.
I mean, I know it took Americans a long time to adopt contactless payments, but now everyone loves them.
I'm just going to avoid the amount of shade that was just thrown. I'm just
Oof.
going to duck the shade. I mean, my main takeaway from that is that Donham's excited about a future in which he can swipe right on someone's smart fridge and have a conversation with their smart fridge to understand the most recent orders that have happened. And then you really just know how that's going to unfold.
And a little
Honestly,
asterisk.
honestly,
I don't think. Go on, Dunham.
genuinely, one of the worst things about being adult is figuring out what you're going to eat every single day and cooking it every single day. So if I could outsource that to my fridge, I happily would.
And then it results in a date. It's all
Protein
coming
goals.
together.
Like being an adult, like worrying about work and hitting my protein goals. How do I do that?
Speaking of protein goals, Micky, what's your moment? What's your level of excitement about these moments?
I'm super excited. There's obviously, as all of you guys have said, there's a lot of really, really interesting and exciting sessions, a lot of like forward-looking ones. I think the one I'm actually excited about the most is a bit of a rogue one. I know you're working on this, Zach, actually, which is the credit union keynote. I'm really excited by that. We've got 8 of the biggest credit unions in the US coming to the stage. And I think I love that session because it kind of just shows you what we try to do at Money 2020, which is, we've got these big technological shifts, but also actually bringing together the people that make the world work, right? Not just the biggest banks in the world, but the US is built on, thousands of credit unions who support communities across the country. And they're really fascinating creatures, credit unions, the kind of
And
bond they
community
build,
banks.
community banks and credit unions. They're really fascinating. And there's something really unique about the way that they operate. And I think it's really exciting to bring them to our show and really have that intersection between the technology, these community first credit unions and commercial community banks. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. I think that's often a neglected topic. So good job on bringing that together too, Zach.
I don't know if I get credit for that, but I'll take it in this moment. I'll take it.
Take it.
I think that goes to Scarlett, actually, who couldn't join us on this one. But I know her plug and her level of excitement pointing directly towards Sunday Night Live, and specifically our inaugural Money Awards is a very big moment. So I'll just say that for her because I know that's what she would probably be leaning into, especially based on some of the ridiculous hitters, as we talked about hitters earlier, that we have on that jury and judging committee. So that's going to be exciting as well. And this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you all. I've learned a ton. I've unlearned some other things. I think we have a beautiful future of dating with smart fridges, embedded finance, and crypto coming to the fold here. So we're just going to have a GE smart fridge. I don't know why I'm so stuck on the smart fridge thing, but we're going to have a smart fridge just right in the middle of the show floor for Donham to talk to. It's going to be a beautiful moment. All right. Thank you all for the time. If you have questions, if you're thinking about the agenda and you're not sure what you should be diving into, or you just want to learn a little bit more, please jump in the comments, send us questions. We are generally our names at money2020.com, but we're pretty slow to respond to email because we're 3 months out from show, but shoot us one nonetheless. Micky, Donna, Virginia, Sheryl, thank you all. It's been a pleasure, and we will do this again soon.